The moon has lost its orbit. Now it is hurtling towards Earth. The world is on the verge of destruction due to earthquakes, tsunamis, and gravitational collapse. At that time, 3 brave people set out on a suicidal space mission, but what they discover there is completely beyond imagination. Now the question is the moon really a huge artificial object, or is it really a great gift of nature? And this mystery will be revealed through today's story. So let's start today's story without delay. And before starting the story, be sure to subscribe to this channel. The year was 2011. At that time, space scientist Brian Harper was on a space mission with his 2 companions, Floyer and Alan Morcus. They were actually repairing a space station there. At that time, a strange incident happened. Out of nowhere, a swarm of insects that looked like bees attacked them. As a result, this scientist named Marcus was lost in space. Harper somehow survived, and after he returned to his cabin, he saw his colleague Flower lying unconscious there. Then Harper looked outside and saw those strange insects crashing directly into the moon. Then they finished their work and returned to Earth. Then 8 months passed, but NASA has not yet been able to find out the real secret of that incident. Instead, they put the entire blame for this incident on Harper. NASA says that they did not come across any strange things in that incident that day. Rather, they were solar flares, which was due to their mistake in their work, and Marcus may have had to give his life for this mistake. And Harper could not prove himself innocent in any way when faced with this danger. Even his colleague Flower could not say anything because he was unconscious at that time. Harper was fired from his job at this time because he could not prove his innocence. And then, it turns out that his wife and children, instead of standing by his side, leave him. So anyway, then the scene shifts 10 years later. There, we see a man named Casey Houseman. He used to work as a part-time janitor at NASA. However, he sneaks into the professor's office during his work and tries to extract information from his laptop. Houseman was a theorist by profession. He actually believed that the moon was not a satellite. This is a large megastructure which is made by human hands. Then he tries to find out about the orbit of the moon from his professor's laptop. From there, he learns that the moon is moving away from its orbit over time and is slowly coming closer to the Earth. As soon as he sees this incident, Houseman tries to directly inform NASA about this matter. But it doesn't help. As soon as NASA hears his information, they think he's crazy and hang up the phone. Then we see Floyer at a space center. There he notices a gas-like substance coming out from a place on the moon called Mare Crisium and going back in. A little later, we see Houseman again. He then runs to a museum, and there he meets Harper. Harper lost his job and was giving lectures to children at the museum. Houseman met Harper there. He tells him that the moon was not created naturally. It was created by humans. In fact, the moon is now slowly moving towards the Earth to move out of its orbit. And after hearing these words of Houseman, Harper thinks he's crazy and throws him out of there. At that time, he sees that his only son has been arrested by the police for rash driving. Then he is taken to court. Harper then goes to see his son there. But since he does not have money, he is not able to get his son bailed. At that time, Harper's ex-wife's new husband appoints a lawyer to get his son out. On the other hand, Houseman tries to convince everyone again that the moon has moved out of its orbit, but no one cares about him in any way. However, here is something for your convenience. NASA already knew that all of Houseman's information was true, but NASA did not want the people of the world to know this truth in any way. But since the incident has now gone viral on the internet, NASA is also in real danger. Besides, the moon really comes close to the Earth, which disrupts the balance of the Earth, due to which many problems arise on Earth. For example, sometimes there are floods or tsunamis, and due to such problems, the people of the city are being sent to safe places. However, according to this news from Houseman, The people of the world have now started believing that the moon is a megastructure.
That is, everyone has started to understand that all his information is true. Then Harper can see the matter on TV, and he understands that the boy named Houseman did not tell him any lies, because of which Harper starts looking for Houseman without any delay. At one point, he even finds him. When Harper meets Houseman, he starts to explain to him about the diasphere. In simple terms, Houseman tries to explain to him that the moon is a megastructure, that is, something made by hand. But the question is it working or how? The answer is very simple, because it is moving on its own. Because there is a star inside the moon. Through the diasphere, a very large star is brought to a very small size. In this case, its energy remains the same as before. And through this diasphere, this handmade moon is being moved from one place to another. Things may seem difficult to you. However, if you watch the video completely, you will understand everything clearly. So anyway, in the next scene we can see NASA doing another space mission. In space, they sent a rocket called SLS Block 2, in which there were actually 3 astronauts. They were going to do research on a subject. You may remember I said earlier that some kind of gas was coming out of the cracks in the moon. It was even going back in, and this is what they came to research. Then they went to the moon and dropped a device into the cracks there. And through this device, they will measure the depth of that hole. At one point through this device, it was understood that this hole was about 24 kilometers deep. After a while, those insects like bees started coming out of that hole again. Even these strange animals did not stop and attacked them. At that time, 3 astronauts died in a bad way. Everyone sitting in the control room was shocked to see this terrible event in space. Even the deputy director of NASA got very scared after seeing this scene and immediately resigned and asked everyone to go to a safe place to save their lives. Flower could not reconcile any calculations after seeing this. He was wondering what was really happening. As a result of the resignation of the deputy director, the entire responsibility of NASA has now fallen on Flower, and I told you earlier that NASA knew all this in advance, and seeing the current situation on the Earth, they understand very well that an extreme danger is coming to the Earth very soon. But even though they understood these dangers in advance, they could not understand the overall issues in any way. Everything is still like smoke to them. Anyway, Flower is now the deputy director of NASA. Since he now has full power over NASA, he goes to find out the real truth, which NASA has been hiding from everyone for so long. And then the depth of this story increases even more. With a little research, Flower can see that NASA already had all this information about the bees that attacked them in 2011 when they were in space. But despite this record, they hid everything and even falsely accused Harper and fired him from his job. At the same time, Flower sees an elderly man named Holden Field there who is probably an old astronaut. Then he tells Flower the same history about Apollo 11. Although we know everything about Apollo 11 for a long time, I will tell you with your understanding that this Apollo 11 mission was the first mission to set foot on the moon. That is, Apollo 11 was a rocket, the rocket that landed people on the moon for the first time. However, at this time, communication with those who went to the moon was stopped from the entire control room for 2 minutes. And after these 2 minutes, everyone can see a bright object on the moon from the control room. A little later, when the astronauts took off from the moon, a sound came from above them that made it seem like the moon was very hollow, and NASA hid this incident that happened with Apollo 11 from the whole world at that time. So anyway, we can see that all the responsibility has been transferred to the military. Then we see General Doc, who was Flower's ex-husband, in a military meeting. Flower can learn some information from him. In addition, Flower already knew that there were strange creatures inside the moon that attacked electronic devices when they saw them. Even to destroy these creatures, NASA had made a kind of EMP device which worked like an electronic magnetic pulse, and it was named G87. However, due to lack of money, they failed in this mission too. However, Flower now wants to reactivate that mission, for which he takes permission from General Doc again. But since all the NASA scientists have fled their jobs to save their lives, now Flower will not be able to complete that mission alone. So he contacts the old employee Harper to make that mission successful. Besides, Harper is not alone now because Houseman is with her. Then Flower tells Harper everything. He says that a few days ago those alien creatures attacked a NASA mission and many astronauts died in this attack. But at that time some video footage showed that whenever these creatures came out of the moon and attacked, the moon would return to its original orbit. And whenever the creatures returned to the moon would again move out of its orbit and tilt towards the Earth.
From which it was understood that the moon was repeatedly moving out of its orbit because of these alien creatures. Due to which they started preparing very quickly for their next mission, and for this mission they needed a launcher vehicle. As a result, they decided to use an old NASA launcher. Then they arranged an EMP bomb to destroy these creatures, and which was called GX7. Then it was seen that Harper's son came to meet him. He started thinking that my father hates NASA, but why did he suddenly join NASA again? Mainly because of this curiosity he came to meet his father. A little later it was seen that Flower's little son also appeared there, whose name was Jimmy. Shortly after this, a problem arose. Due to a strong earthquake, some problems started occurring in their spaceship. But now they have no time to solve these problems. They have to launch their rocket as soon as possible to save this world. Seeing no other option, they decided to launch the rocket launcher with the help of only 2 engines. That is, their plan was that if they could somehow get the rocket out of the Earth's gravity, the moon would pull the rocket towards it through its own gravitational force. Although this was very risky for them, then they started wearing their old non-electric spacesuits without any risk. And the reason for this, as you can understand, is that those alien creatures inside the moon attack them if they find anything electric. So anyway, once their suits are on, they immediately launch the rocket towards the moon. And whenever they launch the rocket, a tsunami starts all around. The entire area is submerged underwater in an instant. Luckily, they somehow managed to get out of there. On the other hand, Harper's son, Fowler, takes his young child in a military vehicle and goes to a safe place. Now the whole story is divided into 2 parts. On one side, the astronaut who is sitting in a rocket and heading for the moon. On the other side, Harper and Flower's son are fleeing from the tsunami. At this time, some robbers attack them on the road and take their car away from them. Then the 2 boys walk and reach a place called Aspen, where they meet Harper's ex-wife and some other people. But by now the situation on Earth is at its final stage. At this moment of tension, the moon comes so close to the Earth that everything on Earth starts rushing towards the moon due to the moon's attraction. Even the nearby meteorite starts crashing into the Earth. On the other hand, Harper and his 2 colleagues, Flower and Houseman, who are in space, are in extreme danger, because at this time the alien creatures have already attacked them. But the clever Harper quickly destroyed all kinds of electrical devices at that time. As a result, those creatures stopped attacking them. Then they started entering the large hole in the moon through the lander on the rocket. And at that time they noticed that everything that Houseman had told them so far was true. They went inside the moon and saw that there was indeed a star there, and there was a dysnosphere around it, and that's why the 4 were moving from one place to another. And that star was the one that powered this dysnosphere. Now it turns out that the alien living there have surrounded that star. After a while, those creatures start coming towards them at high speed. But then something amazing happened. As the creatures got close to their lander, a large door opened from their side, which is why Harper immediately took the lander and entered there. But surprisingly, as soon as he enters, the door immediately closes. And this scene seemed to be as if someone was invisibly helping them. Meanwhile, the creatures could no longer attack them because the door was closed.
On the other hand, the US government orders that some nuclear bombs be dropped on the moon to destroy those creatures. But they do not want to understand that by dropping a nuclear bomb on the moon, these 4 pieces will be broken into pieces. And if these pieces fall on the Earth, the human race on Earth will be completely extinct. But General Dog believes that his old wife Flower will definitely be able to solve this problem for them. So they had no choice but to wait. Meanwhile, it turns out that Harper's son and Flower's son Jimmy are very badly trapped in a place called Aspen, because the people there are robbing them. Then suddenly an accident happens there. Dog then calls his son and tells him to quickly go to a quiet place, because very soon a nuclear bombing may be done on the moon, due to which they go out to find a safe shelter. In the next scene, the astronauts arrive at a strange place. Then we see Harper in a different place where an AI meets him. He even tells him what the moon is and what has happened on the moon so far. The AI there tells him that this moon was actually made by humans. At one time, humans lived a very advanced life, and at that time they were very happy. At that time, they made the moon along with the AI. But at one time, this AI and humans became separated. Just like we can see in all the other science fiction movies, at one time AI and humans were at war. However, over time AI became so developed that they started thinking about themselves separately. Then they considered humans as their enemies and attacked them. However, somehow some humans survived and started living in solar systems like the moon. They even started looking for better solar system to live in. Over time, they also created the Earth. They even used the DNA of previous humans to create new humans and send them to Earth. But now, AI has already understood that there are some humans on the moon, and because of which they are roaming inside the moon and they are trying to completely destroy the existence of humans. And from these events, all of Harper's horses are broken. That is, now he can know the secret of everything. On the other hand, it is seen that the EMP along with the AI's attack landers are destroyed. But Harper notices that there is a high-quality lander inside them. There is also a hypersonic weapon, and is it possible to destroy this AI with this weapon? Basically, these landers and hypersonic weapons were made by their ancestors, because they also tried to destroy the AI, because of which Harper understood everything and got out there with that weapon. On the other hand, we can see that the moon has now moved closer to the Earth, due to which one city after another has started to be destroyed. Due to the gravitational force of the moon, all the oxygen from the Earth starts rising upwards, due to which the condition of the people on Earth goes to a worse level. And at this time, we can see that there is a problem with the oxygen mask of the little child of the flower. As a result, Tom, who is there, sacrifices his oxygen mask to the little child and sacrifices his life. On the other hand, Doc sits on a strike with his colleague. He keeps saying that no kind of missile attack can be done on the moon, because Doc believes in his heart that the flower will solve this problem in any way. On the other hand, Harper decides to sacrifice his life to destroy this AI. But Houseman changes the whole game there. He himself goes out to destroy the AI. The one who everyone thought was a loser until now jumps in like a real hero to destroy those nanoparticles. Houseman jumps into those nanoparticles with the EMP bomb that is there. That nanoparticle is destroyed by a huge explosion, and thus Houseman sacrifices his life. And after this incident, the moon started moving towards its own orbit. Then Flower and Harper were able to land safely on Earth. After that, they made their children. A little later, the rescue team arrived there to rescue them. At that time, they looked at the moon again and thought how strange the moon was, because until then the moon looked like a mega structure. At the end of the story, we see Houseman again. Although he died in the bomb explosion, his subconscious still remains as the moon, which will now become a part of the AI and control the moon. And with this scene, today's beautiful story ends. Friends, tell me how you liked this story. Personally, I liked this story very much, so I would definitely recommend you to watch this movie, because every scene and sound effect of this movie will take any movie lover to another level. So anyway, if you liked today's video, then definitely like, comment and share it and stay by my side. So today I have to say goodbye here.
See you in the next video. Until then, stay well, stay healthy. Allah Hafiz.